Let's bring in Mike Davis now. He's the founder and president of the Article 3 Project, and he joins us on the phone. Hello, Mike. Good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think the takeaway from today's events are?
Well, the takeaway from today's events are what we've been talking about since August, that this is Democrat lawfare to go after Trump with these bogus, unprecedented charges because they fear they can't beat Trump in the presidential election in November of 2024. And this started with Soros-funded Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg in New York. Matthew Colangelo from the Biden Justice Department went up there to resurrect the zombie case against Trump for the non-crime of a businessman settling a nuisance claim. They somehow turned that into a federal felony violations of campaign finance laws, even though the prior Manhattan DA, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, the Federal Election Commission, and Bragg himself declined to pursue this theory. Then you had Jack Smith charging Trump for the non-crime of the former president having his presidential records, which is allowed under the Presidential Records Act. And now they're charging him again. They're going to start with Jack Smith, and next, probably in the next couple of weeks, Fannie Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia, another Democrat, are charging Trump for the non-crime of objecting to a presidential election, which is allowed under the Electoral Counts Act of 1887. Twisting arms politically is allowed by the First Amendment, and the Democrats are trying to criminalize this conduct. And I think the reason they're trying to do this, at least there's been Democrat lawyers out there advocating for this, is they want to try to disqualify Trump from being able to run for president under the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment, which is just not going to fly with the American people. If you think you can have Merrick Garland and his handpicked prosecutor, Jack Smith, with a D.C. judge and a D.C. jury decide the next presidential election, then they don't even know what the American people have coming after that.
And it's amazing to me that they don't have any sort of clear-cut violation of the law that they're even going after him on. All of this is novel and ambiguous that they're choosing to pursue him on. So, for instance, in this document dispute, you have a number of former federal officials who, as you've pointed out routinely, weren't even president of the United States, who stole and maintained classified documents in their homes for some time, never treated this way by the Justice Department. Meanwhile, with this current case, January 6th, they want to create some sort of claim that he was committing a fraud and led to incitement of the crowd. What? You have Democrat after Democrat lawmaker who was advocating for defunding the police, saying that there was a genocide of black people going on in America. Maxine Waters encouraging people to get into the faces of Trump officials. And then you had riots across the country in 2020. I didn't see any of these people charged with anything approximating what they're going after Trump for.
Yeah, because Republicans are weak and stupid, right? And the Democrats play for keeps. And look, remember, while Garland was going after Trump for presidential records Trump's allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act, Garland secretly colluded with Biden and his attorneys for months to recover the 5 stashes of stolen classified records from the Obama White House and even the Senate that Biden had in several unsecured locations for years, moved several times, accessible by their Chinese agent, and almost certainly used by Hunter to secure tens of millions of dollars in foreign bribes and other corruption. Nothing happens there. Garland gets caught. He appoints special counsel Robert Hur, this Chris Wray protege, who is in absolutely no hurry to do anything. In the meantime, you have this attack dog, Jack Smith, who has been unanimously 8-0 overturned by the Supreme Court for his misconduct prosecuting former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, another potential presidential candidate in 2016. But guess what? The damage was done. They took out the governor, so he couldn't run for president. They're trying to run the same play now against Trump.
I was looking today at the team, as we understand it, that's working for Jack Smith. I heard Congressman Matt Gaetz say earlier today that even as a member of Congress on the Judiciary Committee, that he's having trouble getting an actual list of the people who work for Jack Smith, which is crazy to me that a congressman can't even get that list. But to the extent that we've been able to cobble one together based on a public reporting, ABC News has a list, and on that list include people like Timothy Durree, who's been with the Justice Department for more than a decade. He was a donor to Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign. He's a Biden donor who's on Jack Smith's team. There's also a Jolie Edelstein, who served as a federal prosecutor for the past 13 years. When she was still in law school, she was an intern for the House Homeland Security Committee working for Benny Thompson of Mississippi, the congressman who led the delusional January 6th committee. So you see, all of these people, I don't know how much you know about this team, but it seems like there's a bunch of these pro-Democrat hacks all over it.
Yeah, and Jay Bratt is the counselor to the special counsel, whatever the hell that means. Another BS title for Jay Bratt. He ran the counter-espionage hit job on Trump back in August to get back these Crossfire Hurricane records. He's now a top deputy to Jack Smith. He's a Democrat hack. They actually had a former Democrat Senate staffer on that original National Security Division team to go get those records. Now, she went from the Senate Judiciary Committee working for Senate Democrats to this Jay Bratt operation, this hit against Trump, and now she's in the Biden White House. So it's very clear that this is a political hit by Joe Biden and Merrick Garland to take out Trump.
How can you have a Democrat, not just a Democrat donor, a Biden donor on Jack Smith's team, and they're now pursuing Biden's signature political opponent? That guy shouldn't be anywhere near this prosecution.
Yeah, what's so great about this is when Trump wins back the White House in November of 2024, and I'm his acting attorney general for my 3-week reign of terror before I'm chased out of town, I'm just going to take off the gloves. They want partisan prosecutions at the Justice Department. I will bring it. I will fire and indict everyone on my list on day one. If this is the game that Democrats want to play, if they want to politicize and weaponize the justice system, game on. We're going to do it.
Do you think this leads to them either jailing or imprisoning Donald Trump? I saw Julie Kelly indicating today that the classified documents dispute that Smith opened could be used as a pretext to seek pretrial detention for Trump if an indictment comes down soon in the January 6th case. Do you agree with that?
I think, yes, and I think that when Alvin Bragg went after Trump for his bogus legal theory and won President Trump the nomination, I think that surprised Democrats. When Jack Smith indicted Trump for the non-crime of having his presidential records and Trump's polling went up, that surprised them. I think they're panicking now, and they're doing everything they can to eliminate Trump as a presidential candidate. They want to make it extremely difficult to run for president because he has to defend himself in multiple jurisdictions, multiple lawfare cases,
yes,
including the civil case like Letitia James in New York with their bogus fraud claim against Trump. I mean, it never ends, and that's their goal. Is they want to keep him off the campaign trail. They're going to try to put him in prison for the rest of his life. They want him to die in prison rather than face their boss, Joe Biden, in the next presidential election.
But they have to know. So my theory of this is not that they're trying to chase him out of the election, but that they're trying to solidify his hold in the election, at least in the primary. My view, and it may be wrong, Mike Davis, but my view is that they know that with each passing indictment, he only is more likely to become the Republican nominee, because you'll see the Republican base, by and large, is going to rally to his defense because this is a persecution, and people do not like to see that, and they will support him as a result. But in the meantime, they will muddy him up big time for the general election. Am I wrong about that?
Well, I think that's what the Democrats' goal is, but I don't think they understand that this is going to backfire spectacularly on them, because what you're going to see are real people, real Americans in the real world out there who do not like what they see. They do not like D.C. insiders trying to decide the next election for the American people. And I'm already hearing from people, Republican friends of mine across the country, who do not like Trump, and they would rather have someone else rather than Trump. After this indictment today, I've had several of them say, you know what, screw it, I'm fully in for Trump. And so are a lot of my independent friends and even some Democrat friends. I'm hearing this all morning long. This is going to backfire politically on the Democrats. I think this will guarantee that Trump is back in the White House by a comfortable margin, maybe by a 2-point margin.
Wow. So the next steps here, are when Trump says that he has to report within 4 days, I assume that means sometimes by the end of this week. Do you expect that we will get the news of an indictment by the end of the week?
That's unclear, but it sounds like, they sent him the target letter. They're going to give him the opportunity, like any defendant, to go in and testify to the grand jury. Obviously, he should not do that. And then they're going to move forward with their indictments. And it's just, from what I've seen with the press leaks, is Jack Smith wants to get out in front of Fani Willis. Willis indicts President Trump down in Georgia for the same bogus January 6th legal theory. And Jack Smith wants to move first, and so he can control the narrative. I think that maybe they got caught off guard up in New York when Alvin Bragg brought his bozo criminal indictment against Trump first, instead of waiting for the stronger indictments from Jack Smith.
So I'm reading from Robert Costa. He's a CBS News reporter now. He came through the Washington Post prior to that National Review. He says, based on his conversations with sources close to witnesses in recent days, Jack Smith is building a sprawling case focused on how Trump acted after he was informed by many that claiming the election was rigged would be pushing fraud, and whether Trump criminally conspired to block certification. So the report here is that Jack Smith's case is based on fraud and a criminal conspiracy. And what do you think of this legal theory?
Well, it shows you why Jack Smith gets unanimously reversed by the Supreme Court. It is very hard to get reversed by the Supreme Court on a criminal conviction if you're the United States government. It's nearly impossible for that to get reversed unanimously. It was 8-0. It would have been 9-0, but Justice Scalia passed away. Jack Smith and Merrick Garland are playing with fire here. They think that they're claiming to protect democracy. They are throwing gasoline on the fire right now by indicting the leading presidential opponent of their boss in an upcoming election, and it's a very dangerous thing to do. This is these are unprecedented indictments of a former president based upon unprecedented, I would say, bogus legal theories, and it shows that there's two systems of justice. This is why Trump's polling is going up during these indictments. This is why the American people view these indictments, like Jack Smith's first indictments, as political. 60% of Americans see Jack Smith's Mar-a-Lago raid indictments as political. This one's going to be worse for Jack Smith and for Merrick Garland. And we have to step back and remember this is all driven by Merrick Garland. Jack Smith cannot indict without Merrick Garland's permission. So Merrick Garland is protecting Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and James Biden from obvious corruption charges while he's greenlighting these unprecedented indictments against Garland's boss's chief political enemy.
Mike,
and it's just unacceptable. The House needs to move forward with impeachment.
Mike Davis, finally, how much do you think that this is in any way an engineered distraction, too, from the very real scandals involving the Biden family? You see, we have an FBI whistleblower now coming out to Congress this week saying that Hunter Biden was absolutely given special treatment by the Justice Department, by the FBI, alerted ahead of time before so-called surprise questioning on the crimes he's alleged to have committed. And we also have the IRS whistleblowers set to testify before Congress tomorrow. Two very credible, high-ranking IRS officials set to lay out all of the ways in which our federal government has been corrupted to the benefit of the Bidens. To what extent do you think these stories are happening for a reason?
It's very obvious. I remember Biden got caught with his 5 stashes of stolen classified records, moved several times, used, accessible by foreign agents, secured tens of millions of dollars in corrupt foreign money from this, bribery and other foreign money. So what do? Garland secretly colluded with Biden and then indicts Trump for having his presidential records, which he's allowed to do. Now, look, we have this whistleblower coming forward with smoking gun evidence of a cover-up by Garland and the Biden Justice Department of tens of millions of dollars illegally, corruptly going to Biden, including $10 million from Burisma when he was the vice president of the United States, a foreign bribe where Vice President Biden threatened to cut off $1 billion in U.S. aid if Ukraine president didn't fire the Ukraine prosecutor investigating Burisma and the Bidens. And they have 17 tapes on this, 15 with Hunter, 2 with Joe, because this Burisma executive was apparently a Russian asset. That means Russia has compromising evidence on a president of the United States. This is unreal that this is not being investigated and treated more seriously, and they're going to indict Trump for at best being a jerk and not accepting the results of the election. Who gives a damn?
Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project. Always appreciate you joining us, sir. Thank you very much for your assessment today.